Hey there, welcome back to another mini rant. This time it's all about Scream Factory and why I personally feel they're starting to slip, and why I feel that with their current business model that they're setting themselves up for failure. They're setting themselves up for a big fall. And this just right off the bat I want to say this. I like Scream Factory. In fact, I love Scream Factory. Warts and all. So this is not coming from the perspective of somebody who's a hater, who just hates on Scream Factory or whatever. I like Scream Factory a lot. I appreciate all the hard work they put into their content and their Blu-rays and their DVDs for giving us collectors and fans special editions and collector's editions of films on Blu-ray and DVD that we would have never even thought would have even been possible. I mean, like The Exorcist 3 Collector's Edition with the director's cut and special features, the Nightbreed set, the director's cut of Nightbreed, and all these other countless other special editions and Blu-rays and so on. But even though Scream Factory has knocked it out of the park with certain releases, like The Thing and the Halloween box set, and the thing is, I think with their current business model, it's not sustainable. This type of success is not sustainable, especially when I found out that they apparently are trying to get at least 70 Blu-rays out um, each year. Now that might not sound like much, for a whole year, right? 365 days, 70, that's not, but that's a lot of Blu-rays for 1 year. And the thing is, other than their marquee titles, which are going to be bestsellers, like if they end up doing a Child's Play 2 Collector's Edition or a Child's Play 3 Collector's Edition and so on, they have these other titles that they're basically throwing out there and spending all this money printing them, pressing them, and releasing all these Blu-rays. And I personally feel that they are starting to slip because I personally think they're running out of titles. You can see that when they're doing all this stuff from MGM, when any title that they could find from MGM, they would release it in some Blu-ray or collector's edition. I mean, the Garbage Pail Kids movie? Really? It's a collector's edition of the Garbage Pail Kids movie. That was a waste of money. I highly doubt that was a bestseller. And now it's getting even more crazy because they are starting to slip on even more marquee titles. Like, for example, Surfing the Rainbow Blu-ray. They have an interview with Bill Pullman, but he has to leave to go film. It's a commentary, actually. He leaves halfway through the commentary so he can go finish shooting scenes for Independence Day Resurgence. Why do you even have that in there? Why don't you take the audio and turn it into something else? Maybe it's an audio-only interview because it's not a full commentary track. That's completely unprofessional on their part. They've been slipping lately on making errors on the discs. That's why the Thing Blu-ray got delayed. And, it was worth the wait, absolutely. But at the same time, it's like, why are these errors happening with these discs? That should not be happening. You should not be having audio problems with your discs. You should not be having issues with your Army of Darkness Blu-ray where, like, a scene is missing. So, that kind of stuff. And then their recent sort of, they're starting to do this limited edition bullshit. And the way that they're doing it, it just seems really, I don't know, it seems kind of seedy to me. Like with the Thing Collector's Edition, like the deluxe limited edition for the Thing, for John Carpenter's The Thing. It's not like it has any new features. All it is two more posters, like two posters, and like an extra slipcover. They did that for Return of the Living Dead as well. And these are these are selling out, and they charge like twice as much for these. And it's basically what it is it's appealing to scalpers. It's appealing to scalpers, and I've seen this firsthand because I saw on a Facebook group that this one guy bought like what seemed like 20 different copies of the deluxe collector's edition of the Thing and was like bragging about them and offering them for sale. It was just, for twice the price. So it's that kind of Twilight Time mentality that I don't like seeing from Scream Factory. When it comes to the Nightbreed box set, that was by necessity because one of the extra discs was a theatrical version of the film, which the rights were owned by Warner Brothers. So they had to make a deal with Warner Brothers, and that's why it was limited. Now they're doing this other stuff that there's no reason for it to be limited. They're just throwing extra stuff in there. Now, some of that's the extra stuff lately. I mean, like the Child's Play Collector's Edition, at least you get like a Good Guys doll. Instead of just like an extra poster and like an extra slipcover. Like, come on, I mean, really, that's pretty seedy. That's pretty sleazy. That's sleazy business tactics right there, trying to wring every last cent out of your consumer. Now, they also started doing limited edition Blu-rays of titles that they released on DVD before, but they're making them limited. I think like Cellar Dweller or something, and I think that's one of the limited ones. So they had them like limited to 2,000, 3,000 copies, like Twilight Time, which is probably because they weren't selling very well. As the double feature or the box set, the DVD sets with all the 4 films, but I mean, I guess there's going to be a collector out there who wants to get those Blu-rays, but really, up from the depths. I mean, that's the problem they're running into now. They're running out of titles. They did like Stigmata and Species 2 and they've always had these titles that they've done in the past that are kind of like you scratch your head and you're like, why did that get a Blu-ray? But now it's really starting to come to a head because I personally do feel that they are really starting to scrape the bottom of the barrel when it comes to potential titles for Blu-ray releases. And this really came to my attention with their recent announcement of their most recent Blu-rays they're going to release early this year and at early next year, not this year, because it's way past early this year unless you get back into a time machine. Um, but yeah, this was a really I could not believe this when I saw this announcement on their Facebook account. I was like, really? Like out of all the titles, these are the ones that you came up with. This is the one. These are the titles, Scream Factory. I'm just looking up their Facebook page, so I got all the titles, so I'm not. All right, so they announced Firestarter as a collector's edition. Now, that's a maybe for me because of the features. Depends on what the features are. If the features aren't much of anything, I really don't care because I'm fine with the DVD because Firestarter honestly isn't that great of a film. It's more of an effects showcase. It's got some moments, but it really, really, really needed John Carpenter. He was the original director and he got fired because of Universal being a bunch of dickheads in response to the Thing's critical and financial failure. So they had to settle for, I think it was Mark L. Lester. Now, yeah, it's just not really, I mean, it absolutely needed Carpenter. I mean, it's not the worst ever, but it could be better. So, I mean, I wouldn't spend $25 for a Blu-ray of Firestarter if it doesn't have any good features. The next one is the only one in here that would be one that I would probably set aside and absolutely get someday, but it's still not one that I'm gonna like run out and buy right away, and that's Tales from the Hood. I like Tales from the Hood. I think it's an underrated horror anthology, but it's not one of my favorite horror anthologies. And I do like the film. It's just I can't really see myself spending $25 for a Blu-ray of Tales from the Hood, especially when I already have it on Laserdisc in widescreen with a commentary track. I have it on VHS, and I have a 720p version of the film on my hard drive right now. So I have technically an HD version of the film on my that I can watch anytime. So it's a movie that I like, but it's not like, oh man, it's not like if they went out and released a Blu-ray of Deep Space or The Kindred or titles like that or Nightlife Those are ones that I would absolutely go and buy as soon as I could. But Tales from the Hood, it's nice. It's finally getting a new release. It's been aching for one for years. What about Necronomicon, Book of the Dead? That's another horror anthology. I'd actually probably get that if that was being released. I'd probably get that over Tales from the Hood. But Tales from the Hood's no slouch. It's still a pretty good movie. I'm just all right. Tales from the Hood. All right, fine. This is where things start to go off the rails. Dead Time Stories. Really? It's got some great makeup effects by Ed French, but I don't remember it being that great of a film. But hey, all right. I don't see why it needs a Blu-ray, but that's just me personally. Demented. What the fuck, Scream Factory? Demented? I just saw that film. If you've been following my channel, you probably saw my rant on that movie. That is one of the worst horror films I've ever seen in my life. And you're releasing that on Blu-ray? It's not even worth the time or the money that you're spending releasing it. This is what I'm talking about. This is why I feel they're starting to slip. This is why I think this concept that they have of releasing 70 Blu-rays every year, no matter what, is going to come back and bite them in the ass. Because of shit like this. That is not going to be a bestseller. That's not going to sell that many copies. And if you and trust me, folks, if you think about blind buying that, don't do it. I've seen the film. It doesn't matter if it's in widescreen this time around. It's still a cheap, amateurish piece of shit film that is not even a horror film. It's a rape revenge flick, and a very boring one at that, with horrible acting. HD transfer isn't going to fix any of those problems. And I've seen people on the message boards been like, "Yay, Demented!" I'm like, "What? Have you seen Demented? Have you seen the movie? Is there anybody out there who's actually a fan of that movie? If you are, please explain to me why in the comments down below." And I'm fine with that. If you're a fan of the movie, that's fine. I teach their own. But why does this deserve a Blu-ray? Like, this is just a waste of money and time on Scream Factory's part. Or fart. Because really, it's like a fart out of their ass. Like, what are you doing? Like, I think that's the only reason why they're doing this is because they're running out of titles. They need to cram in as much titles as they can to fit their quota, and that means you're going to have a lot of shit. And now, lately, it seems like they might be getting to the point where they're going to have more shit releases than good releases. And the good releases may be phenomenal. And that's why I propose don't stop making as many 70 Blu-rays every year. Cut it down, go to 25 to 30, and make them all really good Blu-rays with titles that people have actually been wanting and asking for, and not just releasing them because you can. That's what I think they're doing with stuff like Dead Time Stories and Demented, especially Demented. That movie, if it was already on DVD, Scream Factory would not be releasing this on Blu-ray. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. And see, that's the thing. They're trying to defend this decision making under the guise of, well, it's not on DVD. It's never been released on DVD or Blu-ray, and that's what we strive to do at Scream Factory. So that's what we're doing. We're releasing Demented for the first time. Like, that's a big fucking deal. There's a reason why it wasn't released on DVD and Blu-ray already. Because it's a piece of fucking shit. That's why. So, I mean, they did that with New Year's Evil before. So, this isn't anything new. But this recent crop is really bad. I mean, you got Firestarter, Tales from the Hood. Okay, alright. But you got Dead Time Stories, Demented, The Angry Red Planet, which is like some 50s B movie. The Screaming Skull. Really? The Screaming Skull? A movie that I remember seeing on MS3TK, a Mystery Science Theater 3000, and even they couldn't make it that entertaining. Isn't that like a public domain movie? Aren't these like films that you'd find in those like really cheap box sets from like Mill Creek Entertainment that gives you like 50 horror films? Like, are you really running out of titles? Are you really in? that desperate need of titles to put into stores and to release to the public that you're releasing a Blu-ray of The Screaming Skull? And it continues. They got Virus. Virus, really? Another piece of shit. I don't know why. Yeah, you're gonna give that a collector's edition? What are you gonna be like Universal back in the '90s, where they had every movie have a collector's edition except for Time Cop, but Street Fighter gets one? Are you getting to that point now? What's the matter with Helen? Eh, all right. I've never seen it. Doesn't really interest me that much. It probably won't be that. None of these look like they're going to be bestsellers except for Firestarter and Tales from the Hood. Dead Time Stories might do better than I think, but I don't know. I don't really. I think that's not as well known as Tales from the Hood or Firestarter. The Vagrant. Okay, but didn't you already release that on DVD? What, you just could release it on Blu-ray separately? Why are you re-releasing your own titles? That's another thing that's kind of I've started to notice. When you are re-releasing titles that you've already released, whether it's on Blu-ray or not, it doesn't matter. You're still re-releasing a title you already released. That means you're running out of money. And I mean, not really running out of money, but you're running out of titles. And excuse me for my voice creaking there, because that's just how I feel. I'm really just kind of just it's I can't believe this. When I saw this, I'm like, I was like, what are we doing, Scream Factory? I know it's their company; they can do what they want to do, but I don't think that they really wanted to release these. I think they just had their hand forced. Tales in the Hood, Firestarter, I think were definites. Maybe Dead Time Stories, but not Demented, not Virus, and definitely not Psycho. The Psycho remake. That's another one that's like, what the fuck? The Psycho remake? One of the worst remakes. Actually, my pick for the worst remake of all time, and you're gonna give that a Blu-ray? Like, who the fuck asked for that? Is that just because, oh, we released all the other Psycho films, we might as well release the remake? Why? Why are you wasting people's time and money on putting a Psycho remake Blu-ray out there? I mean, yeah, there might be some few people who might want to get it, but still, I mean, and I know people will be like, well, what are you doing? What is this video about? You don't have to buy them. I know that. I know that. I'm just saying, if they keep this up, they're going to go out of business. Because this is the same thing that's happened to companies like Anchor Bay. That's why Anchor Bay had to get bought out, because they went through their entire catalog way too fast, and then they ran out of stuff to release. Then they started doing direct-to-video movies, and then they got bought out by Stars. This kind of stuff is what happens to these big fledgling companies that are releasing a genre-specific DVDs or Blu-rays. They eventually are going to run out of titles, and when that happens, then they get bought out or they go out of business. And I don't want that to happen to Shout Factory. I don't want to have that happen to Scream Factory. Shout Factory will probably be fine. But Scream Factory, I mean, I know it's an offshoot of Shout Factory, but I don't want that to end. So that's why I made this video. I wanted to point out how I feel that they're starting to slip a little bit. Their titles that they've chosen for releases are kind of head scratchers. What about Deadly Friend? What about Dr. Giggles? Like, are you just waiting? Is that it? Are we just going to be stuck with, for the most part, crappy Blu-rays for January and a little bit onward earlier in the year until you get to the summer or something? I don't know. I mean, if I look back at Scream Factory's releases for January, this year, it's not really that great either. So maybe that's just the thing they do in January. But still, I mean, when you're releasing crap like the Psycho remake and Demented and Dead Time Stories and Virus, you absolutely really are starting to run out of titles, and this is painfully evident. I mean, you can't tell me that that's the best. I mean, that is the best that they could get, because they ran out of these other titles, and then they're also starting to release these direct-to-video movies. They're starting to be like Anchor Bay before Anchor Bay got bought out, and I don't like that. That's what makes me worried. I mean, yeah, they do have like Poltergeist 2 and 3 coming, but they also have stuff like King Cobra. Is that the which one is that? Oh yeah, it's the gay porno thriller. So I thought it was the 90s Killer Snake movie. You got Willard, the original Willard. That's coming out in June. What's the Matter with Helen is coming out in June. Virus January. The Vagrant May. Tales from the Hood May. Screaming Skull January. The Psycho remake is coming out this December. I mean, in December 2017. What? No, no, no. That's the release dates of the movies. I got it wrong. They're coming out in 2017. We don't know exactly when they're coming out, I guess. Sometime in 2017. Uh Poltergeist 2 and 3, which I guess are going to be January releases. Slumber Party Massacre 2 and 3, Dead of Winter. I mean, Black Christmas is coming out this month. Rabid, Dreamscape, Dead Ringers, Bubba Hotep. Um so I mean, they've had some great titles. But then here's January of this year, The House Where Evil Dwells, Ghost Warrior, double feature. It's because they had the MGM library, I guess, at their disposal. The Guardian, alright, cool. Alright, Jack's back. Alright, could be a bit better in terms of Blu-ray, in terms of features, but alright. Sonny Boy, Master of the World, Tower of London. I think that's the Edgar Allan Poe thing. Curse 2, The Bite. That's in February, though. Millennium and Rotor. I still can't believe those got Blu-rays. Disturbing Behavior. Alright, no new features. It's just the same thing as a DVD, just the quality's a bit better. So, they've had some great titles, and they've had some not so great titles. And it seems like lately their not so great titles are starting to rise, and if that continues, they're gonna lose money, and if they continue to lose money, then they will probably cease to exist. And so that's why I made this mini rant, is because I care about Scream Factory. I like Scream Factory. I want them to succeed. And so that's why I think they should, spend more time and effort on the titles that people really want, instead of just making Blu-rays just because you can. Like releasing Blu-rays of Demented and shit like that. Because, that's just asking for trouble, if you ask me. So, that's my thoughts on Scream Factory. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. And like I said, I don't want this to come across as I hate Scream Factory video. That's not what it is. I'm just saying these are things that I've noticed that just kind of worry me, and I wanted to get it off my chest. Hopefully it doesn't end up being nothing. Hopefully Scream Factory continues going on strong and doesn't end up like Anchor Bay and get bought out by some other company that doesn't care as much, or Shout Factory has to end it because it's hemorrhaging money. Hopefully that's not what happens. And honestly, if Scream Factory starts to falter, that might hurt Shout Factory as well. So this could be a bolt too. This could be a double-edged sword type of situation. And I don't wish that to happen to them. So that's why I'm just making the suggestions. These are just my observations on what I feel is going on. And yeah, thank you for watching. And as always, I will see you guys later. See ya.